Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Now this is going to be part 4 of the what's going on at university. So basically I quit my job and took up the horology full-time course at university. This is a 3-year course and I've just finished the first year of my course. Now the first year is divided into 2 parts. So the first part we were doing the cube and the mini clock, which was super interesting, but now things have definitely ramped up in the second part of the year. So the first thing we had to look at was purchasing a Smith's chiming clock. Now the one I purchased was a Bakelite model back from 1930s, and clocks, my god, they are such a different beast when compared to watches. Because if you imagine, like the one I had was almost 90 years old, so how many little bits and repairs had gone on over time, this all would take a toll on when you come to service it. So it was really interesting. We had to first of all take pictures of the clock to see how it was, and then we had to learn how to strip the clock down safely, different methods of cleaning, and then basically assessing where the wear and tear had come. So whether or not you needed to repivot anything, could you just burnish out any marks on the pivot, or did you simply have to cut the pivot off and then re-drill and fit a new pivot? Then there was a bushing, have the holes elongated which the pivots go into. Now that is quite common, and I had to do about 7 on my clock. There was so many which I found had too much play, and you have to learn how to do that, either using the Bourgeon tool with the specific bushes, or if they wouldn't fit, you would have to turn up your own bush and then press fit it into the actual clock. And you had to learn like preservation things as well. You didn't want to kind of alter the appearance of a clock, so they don't recommend you polish it because there's protective coat. I'm not kidding, it was really in depth. And then you had to learn how to set the clock back up. You also then had to basically figure out how to calibrate it. It was incredibly complex, and to be fair, I learned so much, not just from the actual putting it back together, stripping it and putting it back together, but writing about it, because you have to do an essay afterwards, which is 3,000 words plus or minus 10%. Now you'd think 3,000 words sounds like way too much, but I'm not kidding. I think my first draft was over 4,000, and I weren't the only one. A lot of people struggled, like myself, to get it, to whittle it down to the 3,000 kind of level. It was a lot harder than what you'd believe. Plus you had side projects, so you had to, I think we were given like a gear wheel with 2 teeth which had deliberately been removed or bent or whatever, and you had to cut it away by hand soldering apart and cut the gears all by hand, and that was great fun. I really enjoyed that one. You had to also rehook a mainspring, there was repivoting, there was a few little bits and pieces we had to do, and bushing as well, so you had to show that also. Plus we were introduced into the world of SolidWorks. Now for all you youngsters out there, that is not a problem because you probably did it at school. It's nothing new to you, but for myself, I never had that. So for me, this is one thing where I actually I was lagging behind on, because it wasn't something I'd have ever touched on before, but it was actually interesting. Now you may think, why do you need SolidWorks? Well, your 3rd year project, you'll want to map it all out on SolidWorks before you actually go to make it. You can obviously draw it all out, but also some companies, Christopher Ward comes to mind, they want you to kind of come up with ideas and all that for different movements using SolidWorks. So this is, I think also Roger Smith uses it. So these are all things you have to keep in mind, and that's why they actually get you to do it. In between, we had a nice trip down to Greenwich in London and the Maritime Museum. That was super interesting because not only did we get to do the full tours as you'd expect, but we also got behind the scenes tour at Maritime. And that was really interesting to see how many clocks they've got, which the public don't see. You would not believe how many. Also getting to see the basically some of the things like the how do they repair paintings, how do they repair sheeted text or drawings or flags, all these weird and wonderful things was super interesting to look at. And being that we were students, we got a behind the scenes tour and insight on how they actually do this. Later on in the year, we actually got to look at watches for the first time. So that I particularly wanted to do because watches are more my thing. So we started out on, I would say, a simple quartz, but trust me, when you actually strip a quartz movement, they're far from simple. They're not like a standard Swiss movement where they're designed to be taken apart and put back together again. But you have to learn how to do this anyway. Plus, then we had to look at a Seiko movement. I think it was a 7002 movement, an automatic date. So we had to learn how to strip them apart. And for the final part of the year, we had to do the Unitas movement. And obviously, we had loads of background lectures first, talking about how you clean it, what's good for it, what isn't, blah, blah, blah. Learned how to use a time grapher and things like that. And we also had to, at the end of the year, obviously do the Unitas was the one we were tested on, plus we had to do a full written report with it, so to say how you did things and things, and that kind of thing. But I must admit, it was quite stressful towards the end of the year. So I don't think we all made it. I think there are some who might not be coming back next year. I know one guy's left because he's gone for a different change of career, which is fair enough. He's still young, you can do that. So it has been quite an intense year, really. So it was quite stressful. I was quite lucky, I did reasonably well, so that's all good. And now I'm looking forward to going back and starting year 2. But in the meantime, while I'm off, I've been servicing watches for a jewelry shop. Plus, I've also now started on an internship working at a place which I might do a video about at a later date. And that has been incredibly interesting. I feel like I'm learning so much that now you're actually out in the field working somewhere. That I find is really, really good. But yeah, that's basically the end of the first year. It has been quite intense, to be fair. So, but to be fair, I'm still really enjoying it. So fingers crossed, second year will be just as good. If you've got any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I'll always try and get back to you. But all the best, and most importantly, guys, stay safe. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.